How have you been doing?
Good. I've been doing great. I've been traveling lots, talked to people about AI since you and I met this year at IABC World Conference in Chicago. I'm actually back in Chicago now. So yeah, I've been having fun talking to people about AI. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm going to be honest, my back's a little bit sore. I don't know if you can really notice, I'm a little bit stiff, but it's hilarious because I'm at an age now where I can get injuries literally from things like sleep. So you'd think with the number of hours I put into this task, I'd be an expert at it by now, but whatever, my back's a little bit stiff. What are you gonna do?
I totally feel that. It's all the sitting and all those things. I totally get that.
It's interesting. I find just having banter like this, Rebecca, is one of the things that is really hard to replicate on tools like AI. So as Brenton and Christina mentioned, welcome to today's episode of not another presentation about AI, but here we are. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is a big audience. Look at all these beautiful communications people that have joined us. Just kidding, but we can't see you. But AI is watching your every move. AI is watching, it's always watching. Becca, there's a reason that AI is dominating virtually every conference we're going to go to now, an event related to communications. And I think it's because there's a recognition that this AI feels like it's something that's going to significantly impact our industry, our profession, how we do the work that we do, what role that we're going to be playing ultimately, even if we're not all exactly sure what that ultimately might look like. And this is often looked on as it's like a heavyweight prize fight. Like I loved how Brenton set it up between us, the humans, the battle-hardened and experienced veteran reigning champions. And then there's this up-and-coming young contender in AI. And by now, most communicators have probably played around with large language models like ChatGPT. And I think many are left a little bit underwhelmed and feeling like you've just inherited an intern who has no experience, but unlimited capacity. So Becca, what do you think? Is this fair? What are people getting wrong about how to use AI? And should we be looking at this as a battle, or is this more of a match made in heaven? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah. Becca, I guess maybe this is one of the things that AI can't solve for, but I think you try to sort of bulletproof it by going on phone audio, but it is chopping up a little bit. So maybe I wonder how AI or ChatGPT or Fathom would transcript your section of this. But I think it's one of the things that I often wonder about, which is this role that AI is going to play. But I do know that lots of communications pros, especially that are joining us here, are probably on different parts of like a wide spectrum in terms of haven't really used it, I have used it, but it's not that great, and all the way up to no, I'm using it all the time, every day. So Becca, let's try you again on that. What are your thoughts on that?
Hotel Wi-Fi. Hopefully that's better now. Sorry about that, everybody. We need some AI to fix that problem for us. I think a lot of us feel that way about the human versus AI thing because all we've ever seen are these dystopian AI futures represented in Hollywood, which pit us against computers and always have it be this epic battle, and the computers always end up being bad. We hardly ever see utopian futures where we're working in harmony with technology or robots, except for the Jetsons, because I do want a Rosie of my own one day. But I think it's quite a common conversation to have. And it's normal to feel like that. There's a lot of conversation that direction, but I think we also have to recognize it's going to be super, super useful, and it already is in your job.
Yeah, I know, for some, it can feel a little bit like, that term being a Luddite, and there was those English textile workers in the 19th century that felt threatened by the Industrial Revolution, and the way that they protested was they went around breaking their looms. And honestly, Becca, I think for those of us that are worried about AI coming to take our job, this is a bit of a hot take, but I, for one, think on some level, you're probably a little bit right. What is the uniquely human value that we bring as communications professionals to the table? And honestly, if you don't already know the answer, there's a good chance that AI is going to replace the work that you do. And in our lives, we've seen evidence of new technology everywhere all the time. Calculators, machines, robots, the advent of the PC, ATMs, self-scanning checkouts at the grocery store, even the ushering in the internet, and the list goes on and on. The reality is that the need for human bank tellers, grocery cashiers, secretaries has been steadily decreasing. And over the pandemic, it feels like we've started to, as a society, also show a preference for limited contact with humans. And that's another hot take, is that there's a lot of people that have decided that they would prefer to work from home for the most part, or opting to even work out at home on Peloton, watching Netflix, ordering food from Uber Eats, shopping on Amazon, and even just things like showing a preference for your texting your loved ones as opposed to even jumping on a phone call. I think the reality is that roles are being replaced by technology all the time. Becca, can you think of, are there examples of actual jobs that are already being replaced by AI?
I think the tricky thing to touch on, because Ethan Mollick, who's one of my favorite people to follow in the AI space, he talks a lot about this idea of a job, right? Like this one thing, and AI is either going to replace it or not replace it. But the reality is all of our jobs are this basket full of all different tasks. And my task in this area is different or bigger than Chris's. And we all have these bundles of tasks. And within you do that AI will replace. Probably there are already some things that AI gets. In my case, I'm going through and hand coding sentiment analysis, or there's all these things that now I'm using AI for on a regular basis. That doesn't mean it's going to take my whole job. It just means my bundle of tasks is going to be allocated differently.
Yeah, and I really like that. And I think, Becca, you and I we're on this as sort of like a debate, but we're actually quite aligned in a lot of different ways about the very undeniable idea that AI is going to impact our roles. Is it going to take our jobs? Certainly not today, but it will take large swaths of the work that we do. One of the things that I think is really interesting is I've heard a lot of talk about how AI is going to replace some of the more menial tasks that we have, and that the area of strategy is something that's uniquely human. Do you agree with that sense, Becca, that AI can't do strategy, but it is going to replace most of our menial tasks?
Well, I agree that it will replace a lot of our menial tasks, yes. But I also think that AI is going to get more and more strategic. OpenAI released a brand new model a few weeks ago within ChatGPT that is specifically designed for strategic step-by-step thinking. And if you have the paid version, it's in a drop-down menu at the top, and it's called O1 Preview. And really, it's excellent at almost a PhD level, breaking things down and doing strategic thinking. With that said, there's a lot of nuance and context that we still have to add to that. We know our stakeholders, we know our company, we know what's worked in the past and what hasn't. We understand all of the cultural context that it needs to have. So in terms of strategic thinking, big picture, macro level, AI is going to be able to do that very, very well. But we're going to have to add a lot of context and a lot of nuance, and it will not be able to do it without 4 human eyeballs on everything before it goes out, or with a lot of nuance and context. So I think it can elevate our strategic thinking to places we've never been, but not replace any sort of strategy that humans can do based on history and context.
Yeah, no, I love that. One of the things that I did for fun was I asked ChatGPT 4.0 the question of this, so which is, I work in internal communications, and the question was, is AI going to take my job away? And interesting, what ChatGPT 4.0 says is, of course, it's going to change the way that we do the work, but it's less about replacement and more about enhancement. But it's interesting because one of the things that AI said is the strategic thinking, the relationship building, the nuanced understanding of company culture remain very human skills. And it's very much in line with what you've been saying, Becca, which is like the future of your role is likely to include leveraging AI to amplify your impact. And it's more of that idea that this is a match made in heaven. It's not really a battle. It's not like we're not the Luddites and we don't have to break the loops. But then I asked, okay, well, really, like AI can't think strategically or learn the nuances of my company culture. So rest assured for all of us in our roles, GPT says that is absolutely correct. While AI can process vast amounts of data quickly and identify patterns, strategic thinking, and cultural insights, strategy requires understanding long-term goals, managing relationships, balancing subtle power dynamics. So I guess one of the questions I have, Becca, is maybe today there's still a steep learning curve for AI in terms of what the human touch is and whether or not it can be replicated, and also thinking in very strategic and nuanced ways about what we face within our organizations. But I have to believe on some level that AI over time can also learn and develop and hone those skills, not only in terms of how sophisticated it gets, but the more inputs you put into AI, the more it's going to start to really learn your culture. Learning culture is like anybody. If I step into a new organization, I'm not going to know a whole lot about the culture, but as I live the experience of being an employee, I learn more and more and more, eventually to a point where on some level I can integrate. Is that, Becca, would you say that's the same with AI?
Yeah, I absolutely would. And it looks like my signal's low. But Chris, while you have your screen shared, go up to that little drop down where it says 4.0 in the corner. And do you have the paid version?
I have the paid version. Okay, yeah.
Drop down to that 01 preview. And this is the strategic thinking model. So go down to 01 preview.
Yep.
So now I would ask it again, tell me, outline, all of the arguments about whether or not AI will be able to take on corporate strategic planning. And this is the strategic thinking model. And it might give you a much more nuanced answer just to demonstrate how it is getting better. And this model is designed to be a little slower because it reasons through things. So you'll be able to see there that it's thinking and that it is going to evaluate all of AI's capabilities. It's reasoning through, and this is where we're at. It's getting better and better, and it's thinking through, and it will reason through an answer. And so soon, if you're able to give it corporate documents and, safely, obviously, you'll see here it breaks it down into a much better response because it's a more strategic thinking model. And these models are getting better all the time. So we need to be aware of that. We can't think, oh, well, humans are uniquely good at this thing. We own this and that will always be this way. Because the reality is this is the quality of the AI we're dealing with now. And so it's going to be less about trying to own and hold on with our bare hands, the parts that we think we should own. Adam Grant posted a tweet the other day, and it basically said in our careers, the most valuable currency that we have is not how much we know now about communications. It's how well we learn. So in a stable world where we've all been working for a very long time, our success depends on building expertise in communications. But now it's going to evolve on evolving expertise. And so our potential, he says, is no longer defined by ability, it's going to be a function of agility. So now that we know AI is capable of this, how do we leverage that in specific little tasks within our jobs so that we can combine it with our strengths and take our organizations to even better places and be even more valuable members of our teams and be those strategic people in our C-suite and be even more valuable in our companies, because we know how to harness this and leverage this type of strategic thinking into comms. And that takes our role to a whole new place where we're even more valued, hopefully.
No, I think that's great, Becca. And one of the things that I think is really important to remember is, okay, so fine, there are elements of the work that we do that I don't even love the word replace, but it's going to, I like the word augment or enhance our ability to achieve specific objectives. But if we now sort of accept the premise that AI, if not completely today, but definitely the O1 preview is, I think, a great reminder that it's coming for us in terms of the strategic thinking as well. So that's a little bit scary. What are the things that all of us in internal comms, what are those specific skills that we really should be developing to help future-proof our own roles and the things that we do? Because it does feel like on some level that there's going to be a point in time where AI is going to do a very credible job of replacing even some of the most human things that we think we bring unique value to that AI cannot.
Really, like the number one thing as communicators we need to be doing is learning how to leverage AI. There's like no, I can say things like lean into, more at human things. You're already doing that. We're already good at that. You need to start learning how to leverage that and figuring out what tools will give you an advantage. After you spend about 10 hours using AI, can really be good at leveraging some strategics. So get a ChatGPT account, use a tool called LM, and I'm going to turn my video off because I guess my audio is bad, but I can't tell on my end. But really, you just need to dive in, start experimenting with it, and experimenting with it beyond first order thinking. So instead of just write me 10 social media posts, you're going to leverage it to say, here is some social media analytics that we've used before. And here are our company mission, vision, goals, stuff that's publicly available on our website. Now analyze this and come up with what specific questions my board or my boss might have that I can answer with this social media data about our corporate strategy. Second order thinking, using AI to help you get to a more strategic way rather than first order thinking, hey, social media, hey, ChatGPT, write me 10 social media posts. So start using it simply and then start thinking bigger.
One of the things that it's not lost on me is actually using AI and let's say large language models like ChatGPT in a funny way. It reminds us how to be effective communicators, because earlier on I sort of made the analogy that it feels like you've inherited an intern with no experience and unlimited capacity. And a lot of the initial, like I love your idea of getting people to play around with ChatGPT and really just kind of roll up your sleeves and experiment, try different things with it. But I think a lot of where people get disappointed by the output of ChatGPT is even, my own prompt was very simplistic and it was very high level and it wasn't a lot of detail. What is your perspective on how clear that we need to articulate what we're looking for in those prompts to get a really satisfying result from tools like ChatGPT?
Great question. And I'm going to leave my video off just because it helps the Wi-Fi. But this is, luckily for everybody here, where communicators shine. The reason I work well with artificial intelligence is because I'm a communicator. You completely control these tools with good comms and having the words and being able to give good, clear instructions. So the more clear that you are with instructions, So Google Gemini, here's a resource for everyone, released like maybe 6 or 8 months ago, a prompting guide. Go find the Google Gemini prompting guide. It has a formula of exactly what to do, assign it a role, an expert role, give it a task. But fun fact, as you do that, it's great, but you can also in ChatGPT, there is a GPT section that has many specialized versions of ChatGPT. This is not hard. You just find GPT section, type prompt, and there's prompt writers in there. You just tell it what you need. Chris, you would give it the prompt that you gave ChatGPT just now. It would write you a 10-paragraph more detailed prompt, and you would use that and get a 10 times better response. So prompting is going to matter less. Start with the basics, but then find a way. You can say, ChatGPT, write me a great prompt to do this, and have AI write your prompt for you. Just knowing that the more context and keywords you can use in a prompt, the better your output will be. And prompts are not sentences, they're paragraphs. The average length of some of the best prompts are like 20 to 40 words. So adding in as many keywords as possible, because it's just going to take cues from those keywords to build you a response.
Yeah, it reminds me of sometimes when I talk to one of my teenagers about how was their day at school, the answer I get, I'll ask them like, what did you do today? And I get the answer, nothing. Well, what did you learn about? Not much. Again, I try that sort of what I thought was an open-ended question, and somehow they turned it really quickly into like a closed-ended question. But I feel like there's ways to improve the interaction with tools like ChatGPT, and I think that's part of the equation. Is it's not like a magician; it can't know what you're thinking. I think it's something that you have to be very intentional about. How you interact with it so that you're getting what you need. Otherwise, it just becomes kind of a waste of time. It's the same thing with us as communicators. You create a brief, and the less detail you have in that brief, it's like anything else. It's just garbage in, garbage out. But I wanted to just to shift gears slightly here. I just want to address a couple of comments that I see in the chat that I think are really good. I really like the point that Rekha made that in the experience that prompt writing forces us to organize our thinking, which I think is a great way to think about how we ourselves can be better at AI and be more effective at using AI. I also like Anne's point about it's not going to be able to take over those relationships that you build with senior management and key stakeholders. That's something that no matter how advanced AI gets, it's going to be something that doesn't really, it's not going to be something that does get replaced as easily. But one comment that I thought was interesting was Jennifer, a few minutes ago, said that there's one job that AI can't take, which is fact checker. And this is some of the apprehension that a lot of communicators have, Becca, about using AI. Is if I use it to generate a graphic or some sort of a picture and provide copy, and we have someone that spends some time editing it and looking at it, but sometimes things might fall through the cracks. There might be some hallucinations, and there might be things that actually can be problematic. What are your thoughts on some of these issues where AI, which is these generative AI tools, they are creative, but by its nature, it can also create things because it's honestly, it's just trying to please you. It's not really, so sometimes it might not be grounded in actual fact. It just wants to provide something that looks like it was factual.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that AI does not understand anything it's saying. It's really just predicting what words will go in that context, in that order. It's predicting it as we go. And there are two kind of ways. I study AI ethics in Scotland, and there's two ways that AI causes harms. On the one hand, it's limitations of how the systems are built. You get the hallucinations, the spread of mis and disinformation. There are faithfulness hallucinations where you tell it to only limit its responses to one document, but it doesn't. It goes on its training data that might be wrong, or factual hallucinations where it just makes up random things and pops them in. And then on the other side of harm is the ethical harm that has to do with people, bad actors, using it to do bad things. But yeah, it's important to remember, and it's almost good that AI gets things wrong, in my opinion, because then we're more needed than ever, because you're right, it can't be a fact checker. Now, keep in mind though, it's getting a lot better. Google Notebook LM is a tool I want everybody who's on here to go and try right after this, because it's probably the most amazing AI tool I've used to date. And I will add 25 big documents, and then I can just ask questions of my documents, and it will go in and find and cite the exact place and the exact page, and it will highlight my original document, and it will really, really be helpful for that. So it is getting better. It is a limitation, but it is really important. But I did see in the Q&A some other stuff that I kind of want to address as well. It has to do with, and this is under the ethical umbrella too, things having to do with privacy and security. Huge right now in the AI world. So there are things that you need to be aware of as communicators. Keeping in mind, there's kind of open and closed AI systems. ChatGPT is kind of an open AI system, no pun intended, the company is OpenAI. But really, you have to be aware that anything that you're adding to that is contributing to the overall ecosystem and training data. In your settings, you can go in and turn that off, but we don't necessarily trust that ChatGPT isn't going to use that data. So anything that is proprietary or confidential and that is not publicly available, be very careful about adding things like that into an open ecosystem like ChatGPT or Claude. Anything that would be covered under FERPA or FOIP, just avoid it. If it's something you wouldn't post publicly on Reddit, don't give it to an open model like ChatGPT. Some companies use Copilot and have these more closed models. Your company might have different policies, but just be very careful. Redact things. If you're using it to analyze survey data, strip out identifiable information like names and email addresses, and just be really, really cautious, because it is not governed right now. It really is this kind of wild, wild west of comms. It's super, super useful, but think twice. Like, don't give it maybe your divorce papers. Don't give it like, your credit card statements or to do your taxes, just because there are data leaks and there has been hacking with ChatGPT. So those open systems, be very, very cautious. Use it as a thought partner, right? I'm working on this, give me 50 ideas of how I can align these two things. It's great at making connections, but Google Notebook LM is a little different depending on if you already have a Google ecosystem at work. They claim they don't train on data and humans don't get it, but just really learn a lot about the systems you're using. Take those terms and conditions, feed them into ChatGPT and say, what should I be aware of in terms of security risks about these 50 pages I'm not going to read of security and data stuff? And then identify some of those risks and follow whatever your company obviously has laid out for you to cover.
Yeah, that's fair. I want to shift a little bit, Becca. I was just thinking about, for us as communicators, thinking about best practices as it relates to AI. And I know there's a lot of pressure for communicators to be transparent and disclose the role that AI plays in some of the communications that go out to either employees or the public. What's interesting is that, today when employees get a message from the CEO or from a leader, there's an implicit understanding that it's not necessarily that they wrote these words, that that there might be a speechwriter involved, or that there's a copywriter or someone on the communications team that has written at least the first draft based on points that they've heard, and no one really questions or calls this out. But as it relates to AI, there does seem to be much more of a heightened pressure to, like, okay, we're going to be honest, we used AI to write this. What are your thoughts? Is this necessary? And it might be today, just because that's sort of the accepted idea that we do need to be a little bit transparent about how we're using AI. But do you think that this could even be something, Becca, that eventually will just become to be accepted, that in almost every interaction in some way AI is going to play a role in creating, or at least helping to shape some of the words that we use?
Yeah, I do. If you get a chance, try and find buffers. They have like kind of an AI policy that kind of states some big principles about how they use AI. But even at a conference I was at a couple of days ago, they showed a lot of like comms fails of people who put together this post about something important and added a disclaimer at the end that said, this was written with the assistance of AI. And it came off as highly tone deaf, because why would you use AI to help with you write something about this Indigenous education program instead of just, this is something that should be human, and it's highly controversial. And it's not clearly defined where that line is, honestly. If I use it to help me brainstorm or come up with a direction, at what point do I disclose it? Or if it gives me ideas and it gets me started, or it gives me a draft and I edit it totally, then how do I disclose it? Do I do that in an individual post, or is my policy somewhere on the website, or we disclose how we used AI internally and humanize it together and then push it out? It's a gray area. It's kind of an unethical, there's a lot of ethical gray areas, and you have to kind of decide how you feel about it. My personal feeling is, if you use it as a thought partner and you use it to kind of help with your strategic thinking and a brain partner to have conversations with, then have a generalized policy. Again, look for the buffer AI kind of policy. And that's something that I actually think is really, really great about how they're using it. But it's going to be up to something. I don't recommend at the end of every social media post typing, this post was written with the assistance of AI. I just don't. Someone might feel differently, though. I think we have time for a couple of questions. Chris and I have talked about this for hours on end, but
there is one question, Becca, that in the Q&A, it's sort of the most upvoted. Actually, it looks like there's a tie between a few, but a friend of mine here, Felicia MP, is asking, what about the growing trend of AI coming for creative work versus menial work? We don't need a digital artist anymore. The program can do it. Where does that leave the human side of expression or the process of creation, which I think is really an interesting question, because humans love creating, but now AI is starting to go toe to toe with us in terms of the quality of how it approaches creativity.
Right, obviously. And it's a big question, honestly. And my hot take is there's really nothing we can do about that. And it's an ethical issue, and we can't even as a society agree on ethical standards in general about a lot of things, right? So if you're somebody who feels strongly about not using AI generated art or music, let's say, because we all know, even though nobody's come out and said it, that it was trained on artists' work, other artists' work, which for some people, that is like an absolute no, don't use that stuff. That needs to be governed way above us, right? Like someone needs to make it so that people aren't allowed to do that. But it's going to be up to you, because it's out there and available, whether you use it or not, how you use it, because we can't control the training data sets of these companies. That needs to be governed at a level bigger than us. And you'll have to decide, your company will have to decide whether you use these tools knowing how they were trained, because it's before the courts, and we don't necessarily have a say right now in the training data sets or whether or not they were done legally or illegally. It's a big ethical issue. And the idea of creativity, we've seen this for a long time, right? Like photographers back in the day were worried when digital cameras came out, and then the digital camera companies and the film camera companies were worried when phones came out, and this, but homemade, handmade things are why we still have things like Etsy, right? People value things like that. You can have an Amazon where you can pump things out as much as you want and buy in bulk, or an Etsy for certain situations where you want something made by a human, handmade, made with care. And it's just going to be balancing those things. It's a tough question, because we want to continue to support people who are doing that human creativity work. And at this point, there's no laws governing it. It's going to be an individual choice, which I know isn't everybody's favorite answer. And hopefully we get some better parameters around that soon. But it really is the Wild West right now of AI. And AI can do things quickly. And if I can make a picture I want for content in 5 seconds versus going to license one for X amount of dollars and not have it be quite right, it's that balancing act always, right?
Yeah, and ultimately, I think the nature of AI is that all of its creativity is derivative based on what it's seen already, and so true innovation, true creativity, I think that's still something that is going to be a lot harder for AI, because it can only base its outputs on what it's already learned about what we have been doing. So a lot of its graphic design, music, and even speech writing, a lot of it is derivative on other things that it's learned in the past. So I think that that takes us to the end. And to your point, Becca, we could talk about this a long time. And I think there's a lot of great questions that are circulating here. So Both Becca and I would love to continue this conversation. I think it's an important conversation about how do we coexist with important tools like AI, and how do we also preserve the unique value that only we can bring as humans. So just on behalf of Becca, just wanted to thank you for allowing us to be part of your afternoon.
Welcome back. It's actually amazing to hear about all the different perspectives on AI. I've been using it for over a year now, and I do think it still needs to replace human intelligence, or sorry, complement human intelligence, not replace it. And I love
Christina,
I am pro-humans, I promise.
Sounds like you want an iRobot there, Christina.
Nope.
Yeah,
that's not me.
Right. You got one of those Tesla models coming through, or?
It's on my wish list.
Wow. Christina's a very interesting person, guys.
He's learning all about me, yeah. I also love the tip on actually using AI to write its own prompts.
Mm-hmm.
But let's hear from our audience members. So once again, like previous sessions, we'll be launching a poll on the right hand of your screen, so please take a moment to provide your feedback. Just going to give you all some time here. Maybe we want to hear from Brenton again about his experience with AI.
No, I don't use any AI.
Yeah, you do.
No, I just use my book and a pen. And,
old school.
Oh, very old school, yeah.
How's that going for you?
The Gen Zs are making fun of me, but I can definitely say I'm going to take a little risk at it. Based off of what Rebecca said, I'm definitely going to take a little and dive a little bit more into ChatGPT, and it's more about how you prompt it than anything else is what I learned. So
yeah.
You have to do my homework for me.
Consider it's like your little intern, and you have to speak to it with a lot of detailed instructions and
privacy concerns as well too. That was very interesting as well when they mentioned in terms of putting company policies, company data inside of ChatGPT and how it could be be utilized. So you got to be mindful of that as well.
Absolutely. There's lots to learn.
What's the poll saying? Let's take a look at the poll.
Let's see what y'all are saying. A lot of positive responses. People found it very valuable. So thank you, Rebecca and Chris.
What's next? What do we got coming up next?
All right. Well, we have a fireside chat session coming up next.
Fireside chat.
You looking forward?
That sounded like Vita Patel and Priya Bates.
You got it. Look at that.
I can't wait. Do you know that Priya Bates and Vita Patel wrote a book? Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. You told me about it last week.
Don't worry. We'll talk about it in the next session. Don't worry about it, okay? I'll tell you a little bit more, all right?
All right. We'll see you in the next session.